Have you ever heard the cry of Jungkook that made tens of thousands of ARMY wonder? Who exactly slipped the hidden message? What did Jimin want to tell Jungkook? You should know, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss this surprising story. What really brought Jungkook to tears? Was it purely his own emotions? Or was there a much deeper hidden message sent by Jimin, his true friend and brother? You'll be stunned when their secrets are finally revealed, clue after clue, crafting an unusual tale of friendship and dedication. As the passage of piano notes sounded melodious, the backstage screen featured a simple black and white portrait. But behind the portrait, two figures are closely united, Jungkook and Jimin. Her eyes were full of emotion, her lips quivering suddenly. Suddenly, the cry broke out, unstoppable again. A cry that left the whole room silent. Only the crackling of his emotional rumble that broke the silence. No, this is not just another idol's dramatic moment in concert. It's Jungkook BTS's golden magne crying in front of the thousands and millions of ARMY who see him through the screen. But why? You must be wondering, what led him to that point? What makes it so wide open? One day before the big concert, shocking news blew up. Jimin was rumored to have an evening training session until the early hours of the morning, different from his usual schedule. But not only that, his gaze was silent, thoughtful. Some staff said he had bought a cup of coffee in the studio hallway, but did not drink it. Instead, he wrote something on a small piece of paper. First clue, the next day, backstage, Jimin gives the paper to Jungkook. Jungkook opened, read, and closed his eyes for a long time. Then, the cry appeared in the middle of the concert, right after Jimin performed solo. Fans' hearts were pounding, not knowing what Jungkook had just experienced behind the scenes. Now the ARMY is curious. What is in the paper? Some say the paper contains short but meaningful sentences. Remember where you come from, one of them said. But what makes the ARMY curious? 1. Why did Jimin give it at such a critical moment? 2. Why did Jungkook read it just before he performed solo? 3. Is the sentence some kind of reminder, some kind of moral grip, or rather a signal to cry? To answer this, we must again look at the dynamics of both in the last 10 years. Since the training period, they have been like brothers. Jimin, who is older, has always protected Jungkook. Jungkook, the youngest son, learned a lot about the soul of the stage, discipline, and simplicity through the figure of Jimin. The phrase, "remember where you come from," seems like an important message to remember who they were before popularity took off. But not only that, there is a surprise behind it. Several internal sources revealed that Jimin wrote a one-verse poem, a poem dedicated to Jungkook, in order to spill stage emotions not only because of Haru's achievements, but also a reminder of shared personal values. When Jungkook cries on the big stage, it's not purely longing for family or being tired after performing. It is the accumulation of so many important moments. Try to imagine every long trip abroad, every agonizing jet lag, stay up late every night for rehearsals and choreography revisions, and in the middle of that, the sentence on the paper that always slips in the heart. Remember where you come from. And suddenly, after Jimin finished his solo chant in a guttural voice, Jungkook burst into tears. Beautiful but bitter. The cry of an idol who has grown up, but still keeps a sense of a child who is hungry for caress and recognition. And Jimin, faithfully, soothed her from behind the stage. A silent support that spoke louder than just applause. Plot twist? The cry is not a release, but a beginning. A warning that even on the big stage, there are still values that should not fade. Why is this message being delivered now, at the peak of their careers? Why not years ago? A trusted source said Jimin had felt the same burden, and Jungkook was the place to vent his concerns. But at that moment, Jimin held back. Now he felt that it was Jungkook who needed a reminder. Jungkook's face later looked gloomy on foreign stages, his gaze swept away by fatigue. Jimin knew that if he did not act quickly, the golden meaning could be lost amid the splendor of the world, so he prepared a secret plan. A poem, a clue on a small piece of paper, handed to him when he was most vulnerable, when Jungkook was performing solo. The message was meant to keep Jungkook from losing his footing, so that the tears would be an encouragement, not a sign of destructive fatigue. Once the video went viral, the army was in turmoil. The hashtag Jungkook tears was trending on social media. Many reports mention, when Jungkook cries, I feel like crying with him. There is such a genuine love of friendship behind that stage. But there are also those who question, is this some kind of planned public relations? But most rejected the narrative, because there was a natural moment captured, Jimin's sincere gaze making sure Jungkook was okay, that it's not just a personal message for Jungkook. It's an important mental health signal for all of BTS. The pressure of being a superstar, non-stop touring, global expectations, all of that can weigh on anyone. Jimin, in this simple act, gives an example. One small message can make a big difference. He showed how to take care of each other, not just thinking about performance, but soul.in the global community. This sparked a discussion. Will more idols open up about mental needs? Of course, in the case of BTS, who have great influence, this step is like a strong echo. Caring about friendship, not suddenly in a moment of apes or sensationalism. But wait, are you really sure this is just about an emotional message between two best friends? Or is there something deeper, more provocative, more heart-rending and mind-shaking that we don't yet know? Something that might even be deliberate to hide from the public eye? We must dare to ask, is this just one form of brotherly love? Or is it a stark warning symbol against the repressive entertainment industry system? Jungkook wasn't just crying. No. Her cry was like a silent scream that finally broke the silence of the K-pop world, which had only exhibited perfection, hard work, and perseverance without gaps. But have you forgotten that man is not a machine? The crying could have been a sign of accumulated mental exhaustion, which never had room to flow out. Until finally, Jimin, who knew the wounds from the beginning, inserted a glimmer of emotional code so Jungkook could blow it up in a safe space. But the space was precisely noticed millions of pairs of eyes. And here's the irony. Their safe space is now exposed to the rest of the world. Is this a form of surrender? Or is it a form of resistance secretly orchestrated to shake up the system? Imagine this. If Jimin's message were not just an encouragement, but a warning. A warning about how this industry can erode humanity little by little. A warning about how even the youngest members, who have been known to be the strongest, the most passionate, can also crumble in silence. Jimin didn't save Jungkook just as a best friend, but perhaps as a survivor of the same system, who had turned their laughter into a professional smile. And this is the part that makes many fans suddenly confused. Why after the concert, Jungkook was suddenly absent from several live broadcast schedules? Why did Jimin also become more secretive, no longer even sharing photos of his workouts as usual? Is there an internal conflict? Is this some kind of attempt to rebuild personal space? Or are they devising a way to break out of a system that they feel has begun to stifle the soul? Sources from the inner circle said there had been heightened tensions in management since the concert. There were concerns that the emotions displayed were too raw, too uncontrollable, and that it could create a bad impression on the brand image. This sentence, when examined further, seems to show the industry's unpreparedness to accept the fact that idols are ordinary people, not dolls who must always smile under any circumstances. And here is the explosion of controversy. Jimin knew that Jungkook could not continue to play within those false boundaries. He knew that if not stopped immediately, the pressure could explode into something worse. Deep depression, the desire to leave the entertainment world, even the possibility of ending it all. Jungkook once said in an interview, "Sometimes I want to quit, but I know I'm not my own." The sentence passed like the wind at that time. But now, that sentence feels like a prophecy. Perhaps behind those tears, there was a deep desire to take back his own life. But what is the power? If your life has been public property since adolescence, if your every step, your every smile, your every sadness were to be shown, commented on, and commercialized, Jimin understands that. He felt it first, and that's why he's taking a bold step, returning that human side to Jungkook, even at the risk of undermining the brand, possibly even jeopardizing his career. But are we really, these spectators, clean of mistakes? We want them to always look perfect. We want them to inspire, motivate, give light. But when the light goes out for a moment and they cry, we think they're weak. Some even called Jungkook's crying a sympathy tactic, even though they never knew what was really going on in his soul. Going deeper, some pop culture analysts began to interpret that the moment was a symbolic form of criticism of the modern prison called fandom. Are we too selfish as fans? Is our love really pure? Or is it just a desire to possess and control? The question became more acute when Jungkook did not provide any clarification. He was silent. She chose to let her tears speak. And Jimin? He did not post anything for a week after the concert. Not a single post, not a single story. Just silence. But from that silence, instead, the world began to hear something louder. A demand to be understood, not adored. Now the question resonates even more. Will this be the turning point of their careers? Is this a signal that the BTS era is about to change completely? From a symbol of perfection to a symbol of emotional honesty? Do this the beginning of the end? Or is it just the beginning of a new awakening, where they no longer have to pretend to be strong? And you as a fan or a spectator, what are you going to do after knowing all this? Will you defend their right to be human, or continue to urge them to become legends that never tire? But why should we wait for the cry to realize that something is not right? This system, this industry, this culture, everything is built on a false narrative about toughness, about hard work that always bears fruit, about dreams that can always be realized if you are strong enough. But in reality, Jungkook's cries are proof that the system is not only shaping superstars, but also producing injuries. A wound that cannot always be closed with a concert full of light and applause. What hurts more than tears on stage? A tear that must be polished to look aesthetic in the eyes of the camera. Imagine, even when a person cries, his expression must remain acceptable to the market. We don't let them be completely honest, even in their suffering, and therein lies a frightening falsehood. As the industry creates entertainment machines that must continue to function without pause, moments like Jungkook's cry will always be viewed as anomalies, not as warnings, but as image disturbances. It's as if there's no such thing as an idol. They should always shine, always smile, and always say that they are happy, even when they are not. But the question now is, are Jimin and Jungkook fighting at all? Not overtly, of course. They will not stand in front of the camera and say that this system is wrong. But wouldn't their silence, their cries, and the mysterious messages scattered in those small acts have been loud enough? Jimin knew full well that Jungkook had endured expectations as the golden mean for too long. He is not only the youngest personnel, but also an icon of perfect hard work. He never complained in front of the camera. He always smiled, even when his body trembled with fatigue. But what is the price of all that? Will we continue to be silent and enjoy this show, even when what is being shown is an inner devastation wrapped in spotlights? And you know what's more terrible? Many still dare to say that it is part of their job, as if being a public figure means having to be willing to pay the price of one's own humanity. It was as if their tears were just the spice of drama, not the sound of wounds. That it's not just about Jungkook. It's about all those stars that are made icons, sold with inspiration labels, then thrown away when they show their weak side. We have created a culture that does not allow idols to be human. And more tragically, we do it under the pretext of love. The love that controls, the love that demands, the love that forces them to remain shines even though they are almost extinguished from within. Now, many fans are actually offended by the cry. They feel betrayed. They don't want to see Jungkook's weak side. They want the fantasy to remain intact. But should they live for the sake of someone else's fantasy? This is the tipping point. Jimin is not trying to make a drama. He is putting pieces of truth at the center of a stage that always rejects honesty. He knew that if they didn't start talking, then one idol after another would fall, in silence, with a smile they would never believe again. And let's not forget one thing. Behind all these events, rumors arose about the friction between the idealism of the members and the never-ending demanding management strategy. Some cited tension due to Jungkook's tacit rejection of several grueling promotional programs. Others whispered that Jimin's letter was not just a personal message, but a hard, coded form an invitation to pause from the emotional bondage that had been considered normal. Are you starting to feel uncomfortable? Good, because the truth is uncomfortable. And if you think this is just a tale of two best friends, then you've missed the deepest layers. This is a silent appeal to everyone in the industry, idols, trainees, even managers and spectators, to ask, who benefits when a young person holds back tears for 10 years just for the sake of maintaining the image? Are we going to continue to see them as heroes? Or will we begin to accept that being an idol also means being human, one that can feel, can fall, and can be fragile? You might think everything is back to normal. Jungkook smiles again in front of the camera. Jimin returns with a cryptic post on social media. Funny, full of emojis, as if everything is fine. But who are you deceiving? Yourself or them? A few days after the concert, one tacit decision was made. An exclusive interview that was planned to feature both was canceled. There is no official reason, no press statement. Only the news whispers that they are not ready. Ready? Or refuse to play in the prepared narrative? And it was then that the wildest speculations began to circulate. Some say that Jimin dared to face the agency and said firmly that Jungkook needed time to recover, not look perfect again. A move that may be considered a rebellion in a system that has made obedience an absolute law. Is this why Jimin seems more silent than usual on social media? Is he being punished? Or are you trying to protect something you can't protect with words? You have to understand, such an act in the world of the K-pop industry is a form of betrayal. Yes, the betrayal of the system, the narrative that has been built for years, the consistency of performance that is sold as an image that must not be shaken. Even love can be a threat in the midst of a system that only counts numbers, graphs, and schedules. That if it's true that Jimin protected Jungkook, then he didn't just save a friend. He is challenging entire industrial buildings that refuse to give humans room to breathe. And that can make them a target. Do not be surprised if one day you read the news about postponed solo projects or tour schedules rearranged for personal reasons. Everything will be packaged sweetly, but behind it, there is fear, pressure, and systematic attempts to return them to the ranks of obedient idols. And here lies the most cruel paradox. Jimin and Jungkook are symbols of the most successful K-pop generation, but they're also starting to become symbols of the most tired generation. They don't just perform for us. They are caged by our expectations. How long do you think someone can live under the spotlight without ever getting dark? We, the fans, the media, even the management themselves, all part of a huge machine that is constantly moving, pressing, and forcing. And when one part of that machine starts to creak, when someone like Jungkook cries on stage, instead of us hearing, we wait for clarification. Clarification. It was as if he was making a mistake for showing his human side. The cry, Jimin's silence, and the emptiness that followed it were not accidental. It's not just emotion. It was a signal that there is something that has not been talked about for a very long time. A signal that idols are no longer children who can be shaped at will by the industry. Signals that they are reclaiming the right to their own body, mind, and time. But what do? We discuss it in forums, make theories, even make memes. We debate whether crying is honest or not, instead of asking, why should there be tears in a concert that is supposed to be a celebration? And behind it all comes a dangerous narrative. They've been paid dearly. They must be strong. Have you ever heard a more cruel sentence than that? Money is a legitimate means of exploitation. As if high pay meant they lost the right to feel tired, lost the right to stop. Is that really the price of fame? And if so, would you still support a